Good morning. Good morning. I offer opening words from Connie Barlow. Who am I in a school of 1,000 students? Inquired the youth. Who are you in a cosmos of 100 billion galaxies? Responded the sage. But who am I whose ancestors sailed away from their homeland? Asked the youth. Who are you whose ancestors crawled out of the sea? Offered the sage. Who am I with a mind aching for answers? Lamented the youth. Who are you as universe, delighting in questions? Encouraged the sage. Come, let us worship together.
Well, good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Congregation of Westchester and our online worship service. I'm Reverend Dan Schatz, the minister. That was Christin Green, excuse me. And I especially want to welcome any visitors to our online worship service this morning. We hope that we'll have the chance to get to know you. You can say hello in the comments. You can go to ucwc.org or send us an email if you'd like more information about our congregation or would like to be in touch directly. I also hope that you will join us for our Zoom social hour after the service. The link and password are in our weekly email connections, and we will put them in the comments for this service, and they'll be up on the screen at the end of the service. And I am especially pleased to welcome Christin Green to our service this morning. Christin is one of my newest colleagues. She has been studying for our ministry over the last several years and is just about to be ordained. In the context of our UU Ministers Association chapter, she has already ministered to me, and I am so glad that she will have the opportunity to minister with you as well. Christin is a graduate of Wesley Theological Seminary in Washington, D.C., and she has served in churches, hospitals, and in the community. So welcome, Christin. Unitarian Universalism holds that great good comes from wide diversity. So whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your heritage, and from wherever your beliefs spring, we are pleased that you are here. Let us walk a while together. As a reminder, please check connections and check our online calendar for announcements and information on how to access our various Zoom events and other online events. You can go to ucwc.org/Zoom and use the password Zoom, not very creative, we know, to get direct links to those Zoom meetings. I also want to highlight just a few things. First, I think this needs to be said following some news reports this last week about opening houses of worship, and also following the news that Chester County will be moving into Code Yellow for quarantine. I think it needs to be said that we have been open and extremely active, and we continue to be. Our building is closed. And our building will remain closed until it is clear that gathering in person as a congregation does not risk the health or the safety of our members or the public. We hope that is soon, but we don't know when that's going to be. The UUA has suggested that we plan to be online for much of next year. And maybe we will be, maybe we won't have to, but they are correct. It is wise to plan. And it is wise to remember that a congregation is not a building. It's not a crowded Sunday service, as much as we all love those. A congregation is people. And we are together right now, doing ministry right now, and that is not going to change. Now, having said that, we are feeling the effects of the pandemic and the economy, and after next week's service, instead of our regular social hour, the board and finance team will host a town hall to give a financial update and open up a conversation about how to manage a budget gap that we see coming. And So that will be, that will be in lieu of the social hall next Sunday, not this Sunday, lieu of the social time. And I hope you will all be able to join us for that. Speaking of the budget, we are still waiting for a few pledges to come in. So if you haven't pledged and you are able to do so, please reach out to stewardship@ucwc.org as soon as possible. And remember that if you are going through financial hardship right now, we have a minister's discretionary fund, and people have been very generous about making sure that that fund is in good shape. And we are in good shape, so if you need help, please just give me a call. I would recommend that you give a call sooner rather than later. Don't wait till the last minute if you believe that you're going to need help. Finally, our Ask the Minister service is coming up in June, and so far I have received one question. It's a good question, but I'm not sure it's one that's going to take me 45 minutes or an hour to deal with, so I hope I get some other questions. It's time. I need them by June 7th, but sooner is always good. Just email your questions to me. And now we enter into worship with the lighting of our chalice. We light our chalice with words from Joan Borisenko. Once upon a time, love erupted with a mighty roar. A ball of living, breathing light exploded into a universe of fire and ice, sun and moons, plants and animals, you and me. Since that first moment, love has known itself and expanded itself through us. We can rejoice in our divine birthright as children of love's first light. I invite you to sing "For the Earth Forever Turning," wherever you are.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we a joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we a joyful song of peace. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
I invite you to join me in the Unison Affirmation that we gather, aspiring to be a thriving, caring, and welcoming community that supports each person's spiritual journey, embraces diversity, challenges us to live responsibly, and is a catalyst for a just and compassionate world. Well, it has been a long time coming, but I have some wonderful news to report. For the last year, Sarah Heisen, Joshua Munz, Sydney Munz, and Sandy Shaw have been working with me to search for our next Director of Lifespan Faith Development. And before I say anything else about who that is, I need to say for a moment what a dedicated and amazing group they have been to work with. Every single voice on the team was one of thoughtfulness and insight, and they deserve a round of applause. So you can clap for them now, and they'll know you're appreciating their work. Yeah, I hear the clapping outside my window, so I know that it's a big round of applause. This team met with members of our congregation, they met with the board, they met with different groups and committees, with kids, with parents, with each other a lot, and they sat through hours of conversation with our candidates. After a year-long search, our team unanimously recommended to the board that we hire Cassie Lengel to be our new Director of Lifespan Faith Development. And the board unanimously agreed. Cassie has accepted our offer and she will begin with us in August. Cassie came to Unitarian Universalism as an adult, and like so many UUs, she describes her experience as one of coming home to our religion. For the last 2 years, she has been serving as the Director of Religious Education at the Unitarian Universalist Congregational Society of Westborough, Massachusetts. She told our team that she is a planner who is very laid back when things don't go according to plan, which I think will serve her in very good stead coming to us at this odd time. She loves exploring religious ideas with people of all ages and is very, very excited to start getting to know everyone here. I was thinking about what we could give to Cassie as a welcoming gift. We'll keep thinking about that, but one thing that I know that we can give her is a Sunday school schedule for next year that already has teachers for all the classes. It's not going to be fair to bring in a new religious educator in August and expect them to immediately start recruiting teachers, especially if we're still online. So we need to do that now. So if you have ever taught, if you have an interest in teaching, this is the year to do it. Please reach out to Sarah Heisen, who is chair of the religious education team, or you can email Pam or myself and we will forward that along so that we can gift Cassie with a full complement of teachers for the fall. I can't wait for us all to meet Cassie. I can't wait to meet her in person because we did this whole thing online. We have to wait, but to tide us over in the meantime, Cassie has made a brief video for us.
Hello, my name is Cassie Lengel, and I am so excited to be invited to serve as your new Director of Lifespan Faith Development. I am very much looking forward to getting to know all about you, your hopes and your dreams and your passions for your own lives, for your congregation, and how we can make the world a better place. You'll find out soon that I'm a very creative person with a passion for love and community building, and I'm very eager to put these into practice at your congregation to make it someplace unique and wonderful. I can't wait to see you all soon.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, our congregation depends on the generosity of our members. We don't have collection plates to pass on YouTube, but we have set it up so that you can donate on the web or by text or by app, and instructions on those will come up in a few minutes. I hope that if you are able, you will use these services. I know that it's a shift for all of us to get used to doing things that way. You can also send a check. Or add something to what you pay for a pledge each month. And if you do that last, that's great. It's helpful if you send a little note at some point letting us know that you're doing that. And as always, again, as I mentioned earlier, if you are one of the people that has been hit hard by this crisis, please reach out to me so that we can help one another. Thank you for your generosity in every form. We will now receive our morning offering.
Today, we take the time to acknowledge all the existing losses as the world feels the effects of global warming and climate change. People, animals, plants, and entire ecosystems die every year from the effects of global climate change. And as we acknowledge these losses, I invite you to respond. We remember you. So I'll say a statement and then I'll raise my hands so that you can respond in your own homes, in your own way. We remember you. To all those who have suffered losses to extreme heat waves, we remember you. To all those who have suffered losses due to floods, hurricanes, mudslides, and other disasters, we remember you. To all those who have suffered from hunger as crop patterns change, we remember you. To all those who have suffered from drought as weather patterns change, we remember you. To all those who have suffered from disease as the environment changes, we remember you. To all those animals, beloved siblings of flesh and blood, breath and bone, whose lives have been lost as global climates change, we remember you. To all those plant spirits, precious siblings of the green world whose lives have been lost to climates changing, we remember you. To all those species lost forever as global climate changes, we remember you. We remember you and we commit ourselves to restoring the balance. May it be so. I invite you now to take a breath as we sing together, "Wake Now My Senses."
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiant is here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
I'd like to share a poem with you entitled Creation Breathes and Speaks. I was wrong about sitting on the edge of glory. The world is round. I might as well be round too, uncertain where the edges of me end and the magnificence of creation begins. I was wrong about being worthy. This is not a gift, it is me. I am these rapids. I am these green leaves. I am these jagged rocks embedded with shells. I am these chirping birds and the fallen nests. I am the overgrown algae greedy for resources. I am parasitic kudzu out of my element, trying to claim what does not belong to me. I am this poison ivy masquerading as a natural beauty. I am a persistent ant navigating the vibrations underneath my feet. I am watching and being watched. I am listening and being heard. I am humbled. A few summers ago, I took a class from Wesley Theological Seminary called Spirituality and Nature, taught by Dr. Beth Norcross. And on the first day of class, there were about a dozen students gathered in a basement classroom with no windows. That simply wasn't going to work for a spirituality in nature class, so we took it outside. And once we got outside and gathered around Dr. Norcross, she clapped her hands together and grinned. She said, "Now, I want you to meet your neighbors." And we assumed that this meant introducing ourselves to each other. But no, she turned and walked briskly toward a tall tree with patchy bark and giant leaves. "Does anyone know this one's name?" she called out. And we stared blankly back at her for a moment. And then a seminary student from Texas cautiously said, "Is that a sycamore?" "Yes, excellent. Now let's meet more of your neighbors." And she waved us on to follow her to our next neighbor. We met many of the same trees and plants on that campus that you all likely have in your backyards. Oak, beech, tulip poplar with those fun leaves, ash, redbud, dogwood, Japanese maple, fringe tree, black locusts. We made notes in our journals, and some of us became amateur artists trying to sketch the general shape of things and other interesting aspects of the trees, so we'd try and be able to identify them later when we meet again. It was really revolutionary for many of us to begin thinking of creation around us as our neighbors. Josh Whitten, the founder of the Make Soil movement, an online platform, explains that over 10 years ago, he decided to create a compost bin. He found 2 slats and some chicken wire and made one, but not in his isolated backyard. He made it in full view of his apartment complex. And then he went around and he knocked on his neighbors' doors and said, "Hey, I'm just a single guy and I don't have enough food scraps of my own, but I heard this wild idea that we can turn our food waste into soil. And I've never seen it, to be honest, but the internet says it's possible. So I was wondering if you'd like to contribute your food scraps to this compost." And people would say, "You mean you want my garbage?" And he'd say, "Yeah, let's just bring everything and see how far this can go." And he says that within a few weeks, more than a dozen people were making small contributions. And in the next few months, all of this food waste, the coffee grounds, the scraps, it all turned into this beautiful black soil. It was incredible. And Whitten explains that making soil helps us to complete a feedback loop in our brains, where we actually see the outcome of our actions changing before our eyes. Our food waste turning into regenerative, healthy, nourishing soil that will in turn grow healthy, nourishing plants, which remove the carbon from our air and help us create oxygen to breathe, in addition to feeding us. At the current rate of topsoil degradation, the UN says that we have 60 years of farming left. We are demanding too much from our topsoil, but this doesn't need to be left to farmers to deal with. He says when people make soil together, the next idea is to plant something, right? Millions of people growing their own food creates a resilient food system. So making soil together is a beautiful way to build community. That there aren't many things that we come together to do today that regenerate the planet actively. When we touch that living soil, it's full of microbes that communicate to our skin and our brain that the planet is alive. We go from feeling lonely to feeling immersed in a living system. And it seems that together is the best way for us to move forward and save the planet, save ourselves, together in community, responding to human needs and creation's needs. But we cannot all respond in the same way with the same methods because we exist in a broken system on a broken planet. We have many limitations to deal with. A study on race and toxic waste in the United States resulted in a report that found, among a variety of indicators, race was the best predictor of the location of hazardous waste facilities in the US. 40% of the nation's commercial hazardous waste landfill capacity was in 3 predominantly African American and Hispanic communities. The largest landfill in the nation is found in Sumter County, Alabama, where 70% of its 17,000 residents are Black and 96% are poor. Professor James Cone, known as the founder of Black liberation theology, writes in his article, "Whose Earth Is It Anyway?" He writes that the fight for justice cannot be segregated, but must be integrated with the fight for life in all its forms. Dr. Cone challenges us not to simply see creation holistically, but to see the fight for justice holistically. We desperately need each other in this struggle for justice, peace, and the integrity of creation. Dr. Cone reminds us that if we save the planet and have a society of inequality, we wouldn't have saved much. American novelist Alice Walker writes, "It's not so much a question of whether the lion will one day lie down with the lamb, but whether human beings will ever be able to lie down with any creature or being at all." Creation is not only the gentle meadow near the poet Wendell Berry's meadow, where he lies his weary head. Creation is not only the delicious backdrop of a Mary Oliver poem. Creation is a living organism that breathes and speaks and grows and dies and changes. But most of all, creation calls us to follow the living pulse, to respond to the cries of creation with life-giving creative energy. Joanna Macy, an environmental activist, an author, a scholar of Buddhism, identifies in her work a spiral that maps out our journey into deeper connection with the earth. She describes it in 4 stages. So if you want to grab a piece of paper or something to write on, this spiral, I come back to it often, and it's very helpful in a lot of aspects of my life. The first step is to come from gratitude, to start with gratitude. The next is to honor our pain for the world. The third is to see with new eyes. And the fourth step is the going forth. What now? And these 4 stages support one another and work best when they're experienced in that sequence. They help us experience firsthand that we are larger, stronger, deeper, and more creative than we have been brought up to believe. The spiral is fractal in nature. The sequence can repeat itself in ever new ways and even in a particular stage of your life. The spiral can be discerned over a span of a lifetime or a project. It can also happen in a day or several times a day. We come back to this as a source of strength. And as I said, it begins in gratitude, quieting our mind, bringing us back to the source, stimulating our empathy and our confidence. Gratitude helps us to be more fully present and open space for acknowledging the pain that we carry for our world. That's the second step. Owning and honoring our pain, daring to experience it even. We learn the true meaning of compassion, to suffer with. We do not suffer alone, but together in this interdependent web of existence. It's echoed in our principles. We experience the reality of this interexistence, and it helps us to see with new eyes. These new eyes, this new vision allows us to get intimate with the circumstances and engage more effectively. Joanna Macy writes so beautifully about this stage on seeing with new eyes. We can taste our own power to change, feel the texture of our living connections with the past and future generations, and with our sibling species. And then, ever again, we go forth into the actions that call each of us, according to our situation, our gifts, our limitations. With others, whenever and wherever possible, we set a target, we lay a plan, we step out. We don't wait for a blueprint or a fail-proof scheme, because each step will be our teacher, bringing new perspectives and opportunities. Even when we don't succeed in a given venture, we can be grateful for the chance we took and the lessons we learned. And that spiral begins again. There are hard things to face in our world today if we want to be of use. Gratitude, when it's real, offers no blinders. On the contrary, in the face of devastation and tragedy, gratitude can ground us, especially when we're scared. Gratitude can hold us steady for the work that must be done. I close today with the classic words of Alice Walker. I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it. People think pleasing God is all God cares about, but any fool living in the world can see it always trying to please us back. Looking outside, I can say I'm truly grateful to see all these vibrant colors. I see you, God. Thank you. I see you, Mother Earth. Thank you. And I see you, creation. Thank you. May creation live. Amen.
Well, thank you so much, Christin. As we move into the time in our service when we see one another and lift up the joys and sorrows of our community, I invite you to sing, "There is a Love Holding Me."
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding me. I rest in this love.
In our congregation, members light candles before services in honor of the sorrows and joys in their lives. And in this online service, we will share the joys and sorrows anonymously. And so we light a candle. For one who is in the hospital following a procedure and is eager to go home. For one who celebrated their 70th birthday, greeted with a street full of well-wishers in full COVID gear, honking and generally making fools of themselves, and who says, to be in the actual presence of people and to feel the love of this community was a special thrill beyond belief. For one who celebrates the wedding of her sister, although the original plans were canceled, they held a last-minute, small, socially distanced wedding in their backyard on May 14. For the mother-in-law of one of a young person's day program mentors who died last Monday and who says it is an even sadder time because we cannot offer condolences in person. For the former classmate of a member who was just diagnosed with a rare stage 3 cancer and who is frightened facing an uncertain prognosis. For one who died on Friday night of metastatic cancer, and for his wife, one of their friends writes, "We ache with the sorrow of loss, but sing with gratitude for the joy of friendship shared." And for one whose daughter gave birth to their third grandson on May 20th, and who celebrates that mother and baby are doing well, but also says the grandparents are frustrated, although understanding, of the need for social distance from this new little treasure. There's so much on our hearts this week, and as always, we light a candle for those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken. And together we sing, "There is a love holding us."
There is a love holding us. There is
I invite you now into a time of meditation or prayer. Find your breath, find your pulse, find your stillness, and let us breathe together. Breathe with each other. Breathe with creation. Breathe with our ancestors. Spirit of life, we gathered this morning to celebrate creation in all its glory. We recall the times that we've been filled by the awe and wonder of life on earth, fully present to those abundant blessings. But we are limited beings with short sight and too often selfish or foolish motives. Spirit of life, shake us from our careless habits. Guide us toward beloved community with all of living creation across time. Remove the barriers to our understanding of our role as stewards of the earth. Forgive us for the harm that we have done and the harm that we have not prevented. Help us, Spirit of life. Help us to begin again with a new vision, where we dedicate our lives to a future where creation lives. May it be so, and amen. Another breath, and we sing together a song, Morning Has Broken.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the green grass. Praise Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
This day may the birds sing you an anthem. May the sun greet you with its shine, hopefully. May the breeze deliver you a feather, and may the earth reveal the divine. Go in peace, dear ones. Go creating peace.